Welcome to today's episode, everyone. We've got a very exciting guest for you guys. For those of you just joining the podcast, we're E.N.G Media, and we specialize in helping software and technology companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your software or tech business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the comments. But without further ado, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I'm really excited to dive into Sciata's solutions and kind of what your role looks like in the day to day.
Sure, absolutely.
Awesome. So maybe that's the best place for us to start. Would you mind just telling the audience kind of what your key areas of focus are with Sciata and really what you guys specialize in?
Sure. So Sciata basically was formed in 2008 around a center of excellence on custom software development. So we
Gotcha.
would go into mobile app development or web app development. But over the years, it's evolved, and by 2019 was acquired by private equity. And
Nice.
we've added over the years a capability and strength around AI, large language model, taking large data sets and finding the predictive insights for the business around that. We've been doing now over 25 different large language model AI implementations, and we keep growing.
Oh
And
wow.
then where we're headed in the future is work around software engineering. So, meaning whatever our folks are working on ends
Mhm.
up being the production code for our customer. We typically work with Fortune 500 companies, very large companies. We also work with small mid cap as well. And we're growing across the United States. All of our resources are in the US.
Oh wow. That's very awesome. So US based sounds like kind of 100%, which is really great. When it comes to the custom software and the solutions that you guys are providing, do you work in any specific industry, or are you guys kind of open to taking on any project that really fits within your scope?
Yeah, we work with anybody, but historically our top client centricity has been around financial services as well as healthcare.
Oh, nice.
And then we've done some work in kind of heavy industry as well. One of our bigger AI projects was on an oil pipeline,
Oh, wow.
predicting the when the sensors were false alarming and when they were
Uh-huh.
truly detecting a pipeline leak.
Oh, wow.
And as you can imagine, that was super costly to have a false alarm.
Sure. No, I bet that's super interesting, especially, when you mentioned that you guys do work around like predictive analytics, hence the name, Sci-Ada, like science and data, kind of how you told me beforehand. Could you maybe highlight, outside of the use case with the oil company that you guys were working with, maybe what your guys' solutions look like in like the financial services industry, maybe like a really successful project that comes to the top of your mind that could really bring to the audience like what you guys are capable of?
Sure. So initially, we started working with one financial institution that's kind of a conglomerate of many large banks, and they all pooled their data together to create a new payment method.
Mm.
And so we went in with our predictive modeling and helped them structure the very first AI model around that.
Oh
And
wow.
we've stayed a client of their, or a supplier of theirs now. And what we're doing annually is validating all of their AI models. We
Okay.
basically are the independent experts that come in and test and make sure that the data they're using is appropriate. Because when you anytime you get a synthetic data stream or
Hmm.
redacted data, you could run into problems. We make sure that the AI is not biased,
Oh wow.
and that it's truly working the way it should be. So we annually go in and fine tune those models and make sure that again they're working appropriately. It's obviously very customized, specialized work. Our worker actually has a PhD in data science
Oh wow.
around this, and so we look at this and go, it's not something that you can just replicate, 50 times over. But he's got a lot of experience there, and we've seen him also able to do AI model validation in other industries as well, like manufacturing.
Nice. That's super awesome. I think sometimes we kind of just take whatever AI gives us at face value and don't really necessarily look to validate the data. And so I assume a lot of the companies in the financial services space or maybe even in manufacturing, like you mentioned, probably don't know what steps to take or how to tell if their data is valid. So I could see the value in I guess annually validating all of the data that the AI is actually feeding you and like also kind of what it's predicting as well. I assume that on some of those projects where you guys are validating data, AI data models or also building custom software, I assume that industry standard, it probably takes a long time to implement some of these solutions. Can you speak to maybe what the customer journey looks like? Like if I were, let's just say an enterprise or, a larger bank in the financial services industry, and I wanted to work with Sciata. Are you guys usually, implementing your solutions faster than the industry average, or kind of, would you mind sharing what that looks like?
Yeah, yeah. And where we're kind of unique or different is, a big bank may go and say, hey, we got to deal with a household name, and I won't list the big consulting firms, but essentially they'll come back and say, in a month or two, here's your quote. It's a multi-million dollar bid that's going to take years. And we're not going to give you people resource names by name yet. And a lot of times it's the very senior people that are selling the deal. And then when you start getting that turned on, you start getting a
Mhm.
lot of the junior folks that you end up feeling like you're kind of training their workers.
Oh, well.
We're a bit different in our approach. We go to the client and say, hey, what is it? What is a meaningful use case that we can show you as a proof of concept?
Mhm.
Again, a lot of people hear there's value around AI, but we get really specific with them on give us a real pain point. That allows us to look at the data we're going to need. What systems is that in? How is that data governed? And I sadly have to tell you, 9 times out of 10, our clients have to first go do a data cleanup, cleansing, or governance project because their data house is not in order. I call it kind of the hoarder's basement. It's got boxes of varying ages and time frames and damage. So you got to first figure it out, clean it all up. Then when we get the data harmonized, cleansed, and we know how it's working, then you can start building the models around it. Then you can start doing predictive insights. Because otherwise it's garbage in, garbage out. But we
Yeah.
will do a proof of concept, which may be, depending on what it is, it could be 50K, 100K, but it's not going to break the bank.
Yeah.
We will very clearly share the value that was driven from that. It's usually 3 to 5x in the next 6 months.
Mhm.
And therefore, our customers are like, oh my gosh, yes, let's go. And so that may turn into then $1.5 million kind of sized project over the next 2 years. But what we're doing is building a custom team to go address exactly their issue. We'll get in the systems experts at
Oh, wow.
exactly what they're using. And we kind of bring these teams together because we have a sourcing engine that has 47,000 people in it. And
Oh,
so
wow.
we're really kind of, again, able to pull not just a typical, oh, I need a Python developer, but we can look at what industries experience, what kind of challenges and workloads have they had before. So they're going to come in and hit the ground running. And then when the project is done, they disband. So our client doesn't have to do layoffs or try to figure out where they fit in the org chart now.
Mhm.
I look at it and say a lot of times we can get over halfway done with the project in a time that an approach of, oh, I'm going to build my team internally, that could take 6 to 12 months just to build a team. And you
Right.
haven't delivered anything of value yet for the company. So that's what we love about our approach. And then obviously we do account management. We turn those engagements into multiple repeat engagements. Sometimes they come back and say, now we want you to manage that. Now that
Oh,
you've
wow.
installed this software and stood up a solution, can you help us with kind of the ongoing support of that for the next few years? And we'll definitely do that as well.
I love that. I think it's so important that you guys are focusing. And really, what it reminds me of is like the 80/20 principles. It sounds like you guys are coming in and looking at the 20% of things that, if are done correctly, could drive 80% of the results instead of what unfortunately I think happens with maybe some other, companies in the industry and AI space. They're just focused on doing 80% of the things that only drive 20% of the results. And so I could see how on that, your first engagement really with the potential client, you're trying to identify what are the most important things that you guys can work
Sure.
on, prove the concept, and provide a use case, and then that kind of ascends into like more of a long-term relationship. Is that kind of how your guys' model works?
Absolutely. And of course, now what we're getting into, because the tools with generative AI have changed so much, is
Right.
some smaller firms, they just don't have the amount of data. And so they, they will leverage these larger models that are out there
Mhm.
to tailor that for their solution. And we can do that as well. But sometimes, again, it's not even that they need AI per se. It could be robotic process automation. It could be just tying systems together and creating management reporting with Power BI. So
Oh,
again,
wow.
we really listen in for what is it that they need, and we serve up the solution that's going to be appropriate to meet the need, and not come in going, well, we're presupposing it has to be AI. I think that's the challenge with some product companies is they try to make everything fit into the Model T solution that they've got for everybody versus we're able to kind of listen and hear exactly what the client needs and give them just what they need.
Yeah, no, I love that. And kind of on the topic of, some of the companies that you guys are working with, I know we talked a little bit about like the industries that you guys find yourself in for the most part. And kind of from a marketing perspective, I'm always curious, like, how are you guys getting in front of these companies in a meaningful way? I know you guys are providing like highly specialized solutions that are kind of specific from company to company. Um, so I guess like how are you guys, getting in front of these potential customers? Do you guys have any specific strategy? Is it mainly like referrals and word of mouth from the work that you guys do, or what does that
Yeah,
look
it's
like if you don't
it's
mind me
kind of a
asking?
three-legged stool. So one is working our own personal networks because anytime you're doing truly transformative needle-moving work, it's risky. Our clients are kind of betting the farm on the future of their company with this project being successful. So they're not going to look at a 6 email nurture campaign and go, wow, those are some amazing emails. I'm going to pick them as my supplier.
Right.
So we've got to stay relevant with some of our newsletters and building trust and maintaining trust. But
Hmm.
really, it's leaning in on our professional networks for the leadership team. The second thing we're doing is we're keeping our alumni network active. So
Hmm.
people who have done work with us before, they move on and possibly go to permanent jobs at another company that could be a potential client of ours. So they're now the hiring manager. Roles reverse sometimes where you were the worker and now you're the hiring manager.
Oh
They
well.
bring us in because they know how we operate and
Yeah.
how we value our people. And then the third thing is we do have an active referral network where, again, people who know our company, either prior customers or folks that have worked with us closely, say, hey, I'd like to refer, this work to you. And we do pay for those referrals because, again, they mean a lot to us. And again, once we get in with a company, we have a very low churn, so to speak.
Nice.
I say a lot of times a client may, especially the smaller firms may wrap up and they just don't have a second immediate need. That's
Mhm.
fine. We'll just stay in touch. We'll keep them with our newsletter. In a few years, they may come back because now their business has evolved and they need something else.
100%. I really appreciate you sharing those insights into what your guys' strategy is. And I always love that it's never a rocket science strategy, I guess. Like it's really focused on relationships, like delivering a good job so that way you can continue leveraging, that relationship, not only for new business, but like as you said, as people move on, you're kind of able to continuously bring value throughout the life cycle of you working with them. And so I think that it's super awesome, and it's right on par kind of with what I was thinking as well. But another question that I wanted to ask as well is, what would you say are some goals for Sciata in the next 12 months? Do you guys have any new initiatives that are exciting? Maybe something, new type of offers that are on the horizon, or anything specific?
Yeah, so we're on an aggressive growth path, and so we're kind of seeing that as a two-pronged approach. One is we're growing organically our existing business, and that's through kind of, again, the account management, loving on our customers that we have, getting to do more work, expanding what we're doing there, but also landing new logos. So that's organic growth. But we're also out on an M&A, mergers and acquisition strategy. So we're looking at rolling up other similarly situated companies, especially if they have a competence in AI
Hmm.
and or software engineering. That to us is, again, would really round out the skill set of who we've got on the team.
Nice.
So through that growth initiative, and then behind the scenes, I say every time we get a free minute, we have an internal roadmap and strategy of how are we, what I call drinking our own champagne. How are we deploying technology and tools to better the way our core headquarter function is working? How are we tying our systems better, getting better reporting, streamlining the way things operate, creating better engagement with our workers because we're doing so with AI and advanced tools. And so, we look at it and go, what if we could get, fewer candidates sent off to a client for consideration and a higher match rate because
Nice.
we're really auguring in on what our clients need at the very first pass.
Yeah, I love it. So you're not only, putting all of your effort and focus into the results you're driving for your clients, but you're also kind of taking a step back and reflecting on how you can apply some of the same systems and technology into your own business to continue to help yourself scale. And if I understand it correctly as well, when you mentioned like potential, looking for potential M&A, activities, so you guys are looking to roll up maybe some potential software or AI companies as well that can kind of help
Yeah,
round out your
yeah.
guys' solutions?
We're basically building a digital transformation consultancy. And so
Oh,
by
wow.
doing that, we want to make sure that, again, we've got the A plus team in every one of our three core areas of custom software, AI and data, and software engineering. And so I look at that and say, this is a ripe opportunity to do that. And I think where we're unique and differentiated on the M&A front is
Hmm.
we're people driven people. So, a lot of times there's maybe going to be a higher bidder, what we call the pointy elbowed, private equity folks out of New York or
Right.
San Francisco. But for, a founder who's grown their company, they now want to retire, and not want to be full time, 60 hours a week working, driving their own company. They
Hmm.
want to put their employees in good hands. And so they look at it and go, wow, this Sciata opportunity is interesting because we can see how they've already demonstrated over years
Yeah.
that they're investing in their people and they care about them and they're kind of unique in this space.
Yeah, I love that. Just being people focused. I've talked to other software and AI companies, and that is something that unfortunately they struggle with is, the folks they talk to in the private equity space or even in the venture capital space as well, are kind of just more transactional and they're not really focused on the mission of the actual company and the personality, necessarily behind the founder. And so they've either struggled to raise capital or it just hasn't really been a great experience for them overall. So it's awesome to see that you guys, like, that's the place you guys are coming from when it comes to mergers and acquisitions. So
Yeah.
it's awesome. And I know, we kind of just covered the goals for Sciata in the next, 12 months or really just into the future. A question that I always like to ask on the podcast is, hypothetically speaking, if we could wave a magic wand and it solve one, let's just say, huge domino that's maybe in the way of you guys getting to some of your goals, do you know maybe what that one thing would be?
To me, I'm always looking for a richer pipeline of customer opportunities just because I know that not everything in the pipe is going to come to fruition. And so,
Sure.
it is, I can't create more time in the day
Yeah.
to go touch base with people, but I go, if I can stay engaged, via social media or podcast, things like that, to kind of keep my network refreshed so that they think of us when they do have this transformative work that needs to be done. That's what I would love.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, so hopefully this podcast kind of helps with your guys' initiative. And I definitely do know some potential software and technology companies that are really doing some awesome things that hopefully you guys can connect and you never know, what might come out of that.
Yeah, yeah. I always say there's never a bad meeting. You're meeting somebody new, you're connecting the dots, and you never know how in the future you may reconnect. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love it. I love everything that Sciata is doing. I've heard a lot of talk about the buzz going around AI and how, a lot of these AI companies and technology and software companies are actually driving results. It's kind of being questioned just because of, AI being thrown around as a buzzword, but it's cool to see some of the use cases that you guys have on your website and like some of the projects that you guys work on and really showing that there's a measurable ROI in a lot of the activities that you're doing, especially, in this industry. And so if there's anybody watching this podcast, maybe they're in software or tech and they want to connect with Michelle or they want to check out Sciata outside of your guys' website, what would be maybe the best social platform for them to connect with you?
I'm super active, as is the company, on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So yeah, through that, and again from our website, there's a contact us as well. So any of those channels work. But yeah, we're happy to get out there and hear what their needs are.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to include all of the links in the description of our video. I highly recommend that you guys do go check out Sciata and all the awesome things that they're working on. But, other than that, Michelle, thank you so much again for your time and for your insights today.
Sure, so glad to do it.
Awesome. This was great. Well, we will go ahead and catch you guys in the next video. Thank you again.